Now, if there is one politician who has helped to shape Kenya's place in the world, it would have to be the former Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya and party leader of the Orange Democratic Movement, the Right Honourable Raila Odinga. He's been described by the Kenyan media as a politician who is both revered and reviled in equal measure, a towering figure in the country's politics with a legacy spanning decades, the people's champion, a reformist, a nationalist, and perhaps most important for the rest of the continent, a Pan-Africanist. He's been a 5-time presidential candidate and has been knocked off his political stride several times, but has always bounced back amid a vortex of allegations and conspiracy theories. His father, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, was a prominent figure in Kenya's struggle for independence, who later served as the country's first vice president and thereafter as opposition leader. So what lessons can Nigeria and the rest of Africa learn from Raila Odinga's extraordinary political journey? And I'm suitably delighted to say that the former Prime Minister of Kenya, the Right Honourable Raila Odinga, joins me now in the studio. Very honoured to have you here.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you very much indeed for coming in. I know you've had an extremely busy schedule. So we're very honored that you took the time to talk to us. First of all, just tell us briefly what you're doing in Nigeria.
I was invited here by a young organization that deals with the democracy in Africa. They came all the way to Nairobi to invite me to come to be a keynote speaker at the conference that was organized here. It's a 2-day conference. I honored them to come because they're young Africans who are trying to help to try to institutionalize democracy in the continent of Africa. So that's the reason why I'm back here in Abuja.
Well, we're glad you came, because if you hadn't come, you wouldn't be sitting where you're sitting now. But also, that underscores your commitment to the youth, because a lot of your following in Kenya is made up of young people.
Exactly. You know, when I Googled this organization, you know, there's very little in the internet about it. So I was told that, look, you're going to waste your time to just go to this kind of organization, which is nondescript. I said, precisely that's why I want to go. The fact that they took time to come all the way to Nairobi to come and invite me to come, I felt that that was an honor worth returning.
But it also obviously shows the respect that you command across the continent. I mean, it's not your first time in Nigeria, though, is it?
No, I've been here donkey times. I've been here so many times. The first time I was in Nigeria I was on transit to the U.S. way back in 1976. Since that time, I've been coming to Nigeria almost a year does not pass without me coming to Nigeria. Some other time, they stopped me at a traffic jam in Lagos.
I like that.
It was not a traffic jam, actually. It was on election day.
Right, okay, right. So they wouldn't let you move around.
And when the driver told him that I'm carrying an observer, they came and looked at me and said, come on, you're Nigerian. I said, no, I'm not a Nigerian. Come on, you're playing with us. You're a Nigerian. Until I had to show them my identification, that I was not a Nigerian. But I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, well, you could be someone from the middle belt or something of Nigeria. Yeah. But let's talk about your political career, which is what you're known for. I mean, you've been described by the media in your country as having many faces. They've described you as a freedom fighter, an opposition leader, an activist, a statesman, an enigma, a role model for the youth, but also a betrayer of the youth and a sort of Machiavelli. That's a lot of faces to show to the world, isn't it? I mean, is there one face that you associate yourself with most?
No, well, it depends, as you know. Remember those, were there 5 blind men who went to...
Yeah, the 5 blind men of Hindustan.
Yes, exactly. Depending on the location of elephant that they touched, that was the elephant. So it really depends on from which perspective somebody is looking at me. But all I know is that I've been very consistent in my life, in my political history. But circumstances change.
Indeed.
When circumstances change, it requires also a changed approach to deal with the changed circumstances. That's why sometimes we march, sometimes we retreat. You know, it is one of the great philosophers who said, when the enemy advances, we retreat. The enemy attacks, we regroup. The enemy tires, we advance. And the enemy retreats, we attack and hit to destruction.
That's brilliant. And what is it that motivates you in politics? I mean, you've run for president 5 times, and some would say you'd fit right, you know, here in Nigeria after the likes of the late President Muhammadu Buhari and the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who've been seen as sort of serial presidential contenders.
Yes. Well, those 5 times, you could divide it this way. The first time, I was just introducing myself to the country. I didn't expect to win at all. The second, which was my really serious challenge, I won the elections, and everybody knows it. And it was, of course, massively rigged. And that resulted into a contest and a violent protest by the people of Kenya, which resulted in a bloodshed.
We saw that.
And there was international intervention. The international community then sent the former U.S. Secretary General, Kofi Annan, who came to Kenya to mediate and broker peace, ending up with the formation of a grand coalition government, which we shared on a 50-50 basis for 5 years. The election thereafter was again contested, and of course the results were disputed. And our petition was thrown on the grounds that our evidence was filed late after according to the judges that the time had elapsed. The third elections, again, the results were actually overturned by the Supreme Court, which said that they were massively rigged. And as a result of that, they nullified the elections and ordered a repeat of the elections.
I remember that as
well.
well.
When the Electoral Commission refused to change the system that had made it possible for the election to be rigged, then we saw that it was not worth it. It was like doing the same thing the same way, expecting different results. So we boycotted the repeated elections. So we did not lose, therefore. The last other one, of course, as you know, there was again serious disputes.
Which was settled by the Supreme Court.
Yes, but as you know, we had an electoral commission consisting of 7 members. 3 commissioners said yes, but 4 commissioners said no. But for the first time, the Supreme Court decided that the 3 were more than 4.
But you graciously accepted their decision, which is very statesmanlike of you.
Yes, yes, of course I did, because that is the law, and it's the rule of law. They have the power. I said we accept, we respect, although we don't agree with them, but we say we respect, but in the interest of the country. We don't want to have any kind of bloodshed. We will therefore not go anywhere else, because Supreme Court's ruling is final. Yeah.
But as you said, I mean, there have been bloodbaths in the past. I mean, do you feel guilty that people were killed on your behalf? I mean, people died and lost their lives because, as some said, of your political ambition?
Not at all. People lost their lives because of the system that was irresponsible. It was not because of me. People, of course, are entitled to protest when they see injustice being committed. There's nothing you can do. You cannot stop them from feeling aggrieved. The elections is not just one person's affair. These people were actually placing their hopes on me, and they were disappointed when they saw the blatant rigging that took place, and therefore they protested, which is actually allowed by the Constitution. But then the government reacted by sending security forces to use arms to shoot people, to kill. So I don't think that I was responsible.
Right, but I'm still trying to sort of get my head around what motivates you to run as many times as you have. I mean, your critics say that it is the pursuit of power that motivates you, but that you cloak it in the public good. I mean, how would you respond to that?
I have said that I don't have to run. But then I have got people around me, supporters, who have been urging me to run. Because I think they think that I am the one at that moment in time with the best prospect of winning the elections. And I have also said that I am there for the people. If the people want me to run, I'll run. But if the people don't want me to run, there's no reason why. I can support somebody else, and I have done so. You remember in 2002, there were about 7 presidential candidates, and I told him that we needed to agree to front only one of us. I was the first to withdraw, but the others were reluctant to withdraw. In the end, I'm the one who actually proposed Mr. Kibaki.
Yes, Mwai Kibaki.
Mwai Kibaki. I said Mwai Kibaki should be our candidate because he was the senior most at that time. He had been vice president for a long time. And we said that let us form Mwai Kibaki so that we, at least for the first time, opposition can win. Eventually, the other candidates agreed with me. And when Kibaki actually was been involved in a road accident, I spearheaded the campaign single-handedly. I was the one who was like a president, a presidential candidate. And I campaigned, and eventually Kibaki won the elections. So I supported him. And therefore, I would say it does not have to be Raila Odinga. I'm always ready to support somebody else.
Right, so it's the cause that you support.
Yeah, correct.
And of course, as I mentioned at the outset, you have a absolutely incredible pedigree, political pedigree. I mean, your father was a freedom fighter. He fought for independence of Kenya. and he was the first vice president of Kenya. But I understand that your family has paid a big price for being prominent in politics, including detentions without trial, and you've had to survive what one reporter called the brutal jungle of Kenyan politics. And yet you not only survived, some would say you've thrived. I mean, how have you done that?
Well, as you know that politics in regions like where we live is a dangerous game, because some people do not play by the rules. As you know that people like my father were the pioneers of independent struggle. When Kenyans got fed up with British colonialism, some people took to the bush to fight, the Mau Mau War of Liberation. Jomo Kenyatta and some of his colleagues were arrested and detained, first imprisoned for 7 years, and then thereafter detention indefinitely. My father then, after he was elected in the first elections which were held in Kenya in 1957, he went then into what was called the LEGICO, the Legislative Council. And in that council, he championed the cause of liberation, of freedom for Kenyatta. He said that in the heart of hearts of the African people, Jomo Kenyatta and all that were detained with him were under the true leaders. At that time, he could not mention Kenyatta's name. But because of that, he was ostracized by the British government. But he continued to mobilize the people. And then that became the clarion call, a rallying point for the not only liberation of Kenyatta, but the country. So eventually Kenyatta was released, and they joined together and championed the cause of independence. And when independence came, Kenyatta became the president, and he became the vice president. But as they were continuing to run the government, again differences arose. And there were the issues of deepening independence and making people feel the fruits of independence. But then there were, of course, the foreign powers which were also involved in the struggle for Africa, as you know. So this again brought differences within the government, and my father resigned from the government and formed the opposition party. Again, later on, this opposition party was banned by the government, and my father and his supporters were arrested and sent to political detention, where he served for 1.5 years in detention. And when he came back, he was ostracized. He was not allowed to run for any political office for a long time. We later on grouped together to start the country had been made at first a de facto single party dictatorship. Later on they went to parliament as we were trying to form another political party and banned formation of any political party, making the country a de jure single party dictatorship.
Right.
That went on, and thereafter, of course, there was an attempt by the military to take over power, which was abortive. That was used as an excuse to arrest us and charge us with treason. And when they could not sustain the charges in court, took us to political detention, where I spent first 6 years without trial.
Goodness.
After that, when I was released, I stayed for only 6 months. And thereafter again, I was arrested and again trumped up charges, which of course they could not sustain. I was taken again to detention. I spent another 1.5 years. When I came out, I spent 1 year, and this time we now came out to demand right to form another political party. This is the last one. We were arrested shortly before the DBC. We were going to have a rally to ask the people if they were ready for multipartyism. But before we could have that rally, we were arrested again and sent to political detention for 1 year. I came out after 1 year, and as we continued now and formed another movement, I was told that this time they are not going to arrest me and take me to detention, they will harm me. That's how eventually I was smuggled out into exile. And I went to exile in Norway and spent quite a bit of time in Norway.
That's an extraordinary story. I mean, and yet, in spite of all of that, you command an almost fanatical following in places like Nyanza province, western Nairobi, parts of the coast, and we've been reliably told that all the other notable politicians in Kenya, from Arap Moi to Mwai Kibaki to Uhuru Kenyatta and now William Ruto, that they all shake and tremble, I mean, before you, because they wonder how you could have been defeated so many times and you still have the capacity and the political life to fight on and to be a political threat to them. I mean, that's really the strength of character, isn't it?
Well, I'll say it is the people of Kenya, those who believe in me and what I represent, because I am a servant of the people.
But is that your real genius? I mean, even though you attribute that to the people, that capacity to rise up from the ashes of defeat and still be able to put up a formidable fight?
Because I've not been defeated. That's why the people feel that it is very unfair. The people sympathize with me because they've known all the times that I've not been defeated. Each time I go, they all the times hope that it's going to be different. That's the real reason why. And I feel it also. If you are defeated, you feel that you're defeated. But I usually look forward because I walk tall with my head tall because I know that I was not defeated.
And of course, let me bring this up to date to that youth uprising. Let's start with the one last year. You in the middle of that uprising, you formed a broad-based government with President Ruto, which earned you the title of being a betrayer. What many felt was the cause that they believed that you championed on behalf of the people, which was the defender of the cause of the vulnerable, which is what you were saying just a minute ago. But in fact, it was, from what I understand, Uhuru Kenyatta who asked you to talk to President Ruto in the interest of the country. And once you started talking to him, you began fighting from the inside to stop the government from calling out the military onto the streets and to end the brutality. Has that perception of you as someone who crossed over to support the oppressor been difficult to live down?
First, let me put the record straight. The year before last year, in 2023, we were on the streets. That is my coalition. First, we had access to the electoral server. And the result in the server spoke a different story. Because in the year before, when the commission was divided, they say that I had lost by 200,000 votes. But the server spoke a different story. So he insisted that the server should be opened. Secondly, we raised the issues which would later on be raised again by the youth last year. The issues of cost of living, the issues of corruption in government, the issues of unemployment of the youth, and so on. There was a brokerage. The community, the African community came up. First President Suluhu of Tanzania came to Kenya, and then President Ramaphosa. Eventually they agreed to send President Obasanjo to come and broker understanding. Obasanjo came, had me and Ruto sit together. We agreed to form a task force to deal with the issues in contention. That task force was formed, and it spent a few months and came up with a report called NADCO report. That report was taken to Parliament, but the Ruto's government were actually slow in implementing the recommendations of the report. So last year, the youth came raising the very same issues. And the youth now, eventually, when Parliament decided to pass the finance bill, which was the major cause of the contention, the youth came out in the streets when Parliament was passing this law. And eventually, they overpowered the police. Police were using weapons, killing people. But they overpowered the police. They eventually stormed Parliament, took the maze. They went and stormed the Supreme Court. Then they were on the way to State House. They were blocked by the security forces. So that actually amounts to no confidence in the legislature,
right,
in the judiciary, and in the executive, as it were. Ordinarily, the government should have resigned. But no, the government decided to bring in the military. When we protested that the military cannot be used or brought unless there's express authority of Parliament, they went to Parliament and coerced Parliament to approve. So the first time the military came on the streets, which was a very dangerous development. At that time, now there was a standoff, and President Uhuru Kenyatta actually called me from the United States, where he was, and asked me, saying that, I know you do not want to talk to Mr. Ruto, but in the interest of our country, I urge you to go and talk to Mr. Ruto to stop what is going on. Otherwise, we are not going to have a country. And I listened to this, but before I looked for Mr. Ruto, he's the one who looked for me.
Right.
And when he looked for me, I told him that he had made a mistake of not listening to the people. And there was need, therefore, for him to call for a national convention to bring the country together, because the country was almost exploding.
Right. Well, that was an extraordinary period, and of course we had a near repeat this year as well. But I mean,
this is this year now.
Yes.
I mean, sorry, near repeat this year. But I'm saying that year, therefore, when Ruto called for this meeting, it was rejected. These Gen Zs, of course, they had no leader. They were like the Tahrir Square team in Cairo. Now, when Ruto agreed to dissolve his cabinet, and then also agreed to suspend the finance bill, he said he was not going to sign it, refer it back to Parliament. So that is what broke the balloon, because the issue was finance bill and the government.
Right.
Then he now said he would form a new government after wider consultation with the opposition. That's what happened.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, we're fast running out of time. We've got just a few minutes left, but I want to ask you this: given this extraordinary life that you've had, given this amazing background that you come from, and the way that you've remained steadfast in your beliefs and your political pursuits, I mean, what do you think African politicians can learn from yourself and from Kenya in that regard, as your country and yourself have evolved politically? Briefly.
First, let me just say that I have not, and I will never betray the cause of the people of Kenya. I've only taken some measures in the best interest of the country, because I've said that Kenya is bigger than all of us. Mm. And what I saw was that the country was in the brink of collapse. By the time you see soldiers on the streets, I mean, Nigerians, of course, don't have to be taught about this.
Indeed.
So you know the consequences. So I am saying that Africa, what the problems you have in Kenya exist in many other African countries. You've seen countries where when people have been in power for 42 years, still want to run for the presidency. Some other countries, there are really no elections. Elections are just rituals, which are held, but basically just to perpetuate the status quo of a country. But I'm saying that African democracy needs to come of age. The African people's voices must be felt. The ballot should be able to speak for the people. Because if it does not speak for the people lose confidence in the ballot.
Indeed. And of course, in that regard, what's next for you? Because, I mean, you were talking about people who've been in office for a very long time. You're now, I believe, 80 years old. I mean, are you planning to run for president or for public office again?
I have not said that I want to run.
Well, you haven't said that you're not going to run.
I have not said that I'm not going to run because, as you know, I lead a political party, and I have to consult my political party so that the movement survives even without me. So I've said that Kenya should be led by people who have got a clear mandate of the people. Mm. And this can only come if the electoral process is really fair, so that the voice of the people is reflected in the outcome of elections. So this is what I want to see even after I exit the stage.
Right, but do you think that having run 5 times, that perhaps it's time to give someone else a chance?
Yeah, I'm very ready to give someone else a chance. I don't have to run, as I've said. It is democracy, and I've got several very capable assistants who can take over the mantle where I am. So I'm saying that Kenya is bigger than all of us.
Indeed.
What I want is basically a strong foundation for democracy, so that the future generations don't have to go through what I have gone through myself.
Indeed. And on that note, I want to thank you very much indeed. We're deeply, deeply grateful to you for coming in.